I was born a chickadee after the human fallout, and I became the strongest thing in the sky. Okay, before you scroll. Okay, before you scroll. Yeah, I was born a chickadee after the human fallout, and I became the strongest thing in the sky. Okay, before you scroll. Yeah, I know how this sounds. I was born as a small chickadee in an animal takeover. That's not clickbait. That's not a metaphor. I mean that literally. And if you're listening to this while doing your homework or doom scrolling at 2 a.m., just imagine this is a long Reddit confession thread that somehow ended up on a podcast. Because this is my life. 1. The world after the static. Humans didn't disappear in a blaze of glory. There wasn't some huge final explosion. It was slower. The radiation came first, not from one bomb, not from one accident, but from years of small cracks. Reactors that leaked, satellites that burned wrong, chemical plants abandoned during wars. The sky got sick. The earth followed. Animals didn't die the way humans expected. We changed. At first, it was subtle, bigger litters, strange eye colors. Birds that didn't migrate, wolves that stopped fearing cities. Then came the second wave. Teeth too long, bones too dense. Feathers that could cut skin like paper. Nervous systems that adapted to toxins. And then came intelligence. Not human intelligence. Different. Sharper. Quieter. More instinctual, but more strategic. By the time humans realized what was happening, they were already outnumbered. And I was born in a broken birdhouse on what used to be the edge of a park. A small black-capped chickadee. Tiny, fragile, loud. Or at least, I would have been. 2. Being born small in a world of monsters. If you don't know what a chickadee is, we're small. Really small. We weigh about as much as a couple of coins. Cute, round, harmless. That's what humans used to think. But in the takeover era, size mattered. Crows had wingspans like umbrellas. Hawks could shatter bone mid-flight. Raccoons had claws that sparked against metal. And the owls. The owls had eyes that glowed faint green at night. I hatched during the third molting season, when radiation spikes caused unpredictable mutations in newborns. My siblings? One was born with transparent feathers and didn't survive the cold. Another hatched with a beak too heavy for her skull. Only 2 of us made it past our first week. Me. And my brother, Ash. Ash was bigger, not by much, but enough. His talons curved slightly more than normal. His eyes had that green tint. Mine didn't. I was small. Normal looking. Weak. In a world where strength determined survival. 3. The first lesson, the sky isn't safe. You'd think birds own the sky. Not anymore. The hawks had taken the upper airspace. They formed something like patrol rings. If you flew too high without permission, they hunted you. The crows controlled the city centers. Organized, territorial, smart. Even pigeons had become aggressive in flocks. Chickadees? We were background noise. Snack-sized. I learned that on my 15th day of flight. I'd just left the safety of the maple tree where I was raised. My wings were still awkward, beating too fast. Ash flew ahead of me, confident. Then the shadow came. A hawk, bigger than any I'd seen. Its feathers shimmered strangely, metallic edges from mutation. It didn't dive. It just tilted its wing. The air pressure alone knocked Ash sideways. I tried to scream, but chickadees don't roar. We chirped. The hawk didn't kill him, not immediately. It pinned him to the ground and looked at me. Actually looked at me. Like it was measuring whether I was worth the energy. I froze. Small. Useless. Ash survived, barely, because a group of crows interrupted. Territorial dispute, chaos. We escaped. But that day changed something in me. I didn't want to be background noise anymore. 4. The mutation that wasn't obvious. Not all mutations are visible. Mine didn't show in my size. It showed in my memory. Chickadees already have strong spatial memory, even before the radiation. We remember thousands of food caches. But mine was different. I remembered everything. Wind patterns. Predator routes. The exact rhythm of hawk patrol shifts. The timing between owl blinks. Every detail locked into place. And when the 4th molting season hit, something else changed. My muscles didn't grow larger. They grew denser. Compact. Efficient. I didn't look stronger. I was just faster. And endurance? I could fly longer than any other chickadee in my flock. But I didn't tell anyone. In a world like ours, you don't reveal your advantages too early. 5. The fall of the maple flock. It happened during winter. Food was scarce. Snow glowed faintly at night from residual radiation. The raccoons had grown bold, larger, smarter. They hunted in coordinated groups. One night, they climbed the maple. We were asleep. They weren't loud. That was the terrifying part. They were organized. Ash fought. He'd always been braver than me. He slashed at a raccoon's eye. It barely flinched. I remember clinging to bark, heart pounding so hard I thought it would tear my ribs open. The flock fell in minutes. Not all died. Some were taken. Some escaped. I survived because I didn't fight. I observed. I memorized their formation, their weak points, their communication clicks. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't just survive. I would evolve. 6. Training in the dead zones. There were places even mutated predators avoided. Dead zones. Areas with unstable radiation spikes. Trees grew twisted there, mushrooms pulsed faint blue. The air felt heavy. Small birds avoided it because it weakened us. But I realized something. Short exposures made me stronger. Long exposures made others sick. So I began training. Every day, I flew into the dead zone for exactly 3 minutes. Then 5. Then 10. My feathers started to shift, edges slightly sharper. Not blade-like, but firm enough to cut thin skin. My reaction time improved. I practiced diving, not like a hawk, but like a needle. Precision instead of power. I memorized airflow through ruined buildings. Used broken human structures as obstacle courses. I flew through shattered windows, rusted beams, collapsed ceilings. Over and over. Months passed. I was still small. But small stopped meaning weak. 7. The first hunt. I didn't want to become like the hawks. But power means nothing if you never test it. The opportunity came when a lone mutated rat began raiding smaller bird nests. Rats had grown the worst in the takeover. Thick hides, enlarged incisors. Pack intelligence. This one hunted alone. Which meant arrogance. I tracked it for days. Studied its routine. It paused for exactly 2 seconds before entering any new space. Listening. So I waited. When it crawled beneath a collapsed bench, I dove. Not at its body. At its ear. Full speed. My beak struck with everything I had. It screamed, high, shocked. Before it could react, I climbed, circled, and dove again, this time at the softer tissue near the jaw hinge. I wasn't stronger. I was precise. It thrashed. But I stayed out of reach. In less than a minute, it collapsed. The first time I'd killed something larger than me. I expected guilt. I felt clarity. Strength wasn't about size. It was about understanding. 8. The rise of the chickadee. Word spreads fast in animal networks. Not through language the way humans think of it. Through behavior. Through pattern shifts. Predators began hesitating in certain zones. Small birds started following my flight paths. Ash noticed first. You've changed, he told me one dawn. I adapted, I answered. He laughed softly. You're still tiny. Good, I said. That winter, I led smaller birds through migration routes that avoided hawk patrols. I disrupted raccoon scouting by triggering false alarms. I used reflective glass to disorient predators. Humans had left behind tools. They just didn't know how to use them properly. We did. 9. The Hawk Challenge. Eventually, strength attracts attention. The metallic feathered hawk, the one from my childhood, found me again. It landed on a rusted light pole at the edge of the dead zone. You're the small one, it said. Yes. We speak now. Not in English. In intent. In layered sound. But I'll translate. You interfere with patrols. You kill selectively. You are disruptive. I hovered just out of reach. I replied. It spread its wings. Prove your place. The challenge wasn't a duel to the death. It was a sky trial. A chase through vertical ruins. If I lost, I'd become prey. If I won, chickadees would gain protected airspace. I accepted. Because I was done hiding. 10. The sky trial. The hawk launched first. The force of its takeoff shook dust from rooftops. I waited half a heartbeat. Then followed. We rose through broken towers, weaving through skeletal beams. It had power. Massive, crushing speed. But large wings struggle in tight corridors. I had trained for this. Through shattered offices. Through dangling wires. Through collapsed stairwells. It tried to corner me against a glassless window frame. I folded my wings and dropped straight down. At the last second, I snapped them open and shot sideways through a gap barely wider than my wingspan. The hawk clipped metal. Not enough to fall. But enough to slow. I didn't need to overpower it. I just needed to outlast it. Minutes stretched. Its dives grew heavier. Mine grew sharper. Finally, above the old radio tower, it faltered. Not defeated. But winded. It hovered, then settled on a beam. You are not prey, it conceded. I landed opposite it. And you are not invincible, I replied. That day, the upper mid-airspace shifted. Chickadees gained corridors. Small birds gained safety routes. And I gained something else. Recognition. 11. Becoming the strongest. Strength isn't always about ruling. It's about reshaping the rules. Over the next seasons, Comet I coordinated mixed species flocks. Comet I trained younger chickadees in precision diving. Comet I mapped radiation currents like rivers in the sky. Comet I established neutral zones in the dead areas. Predators still existed. Violence still happened. But balance returned. And the strangest part? I never grew larger. I remained small. Round. Black-capped. If a human from the past saw me, they'd think I was harmless. They'd be wrong. Because strength isn't what you look like. It's what you understand. 12. Final confession. Sometimes, late at night, I perch on the highest stable beam of the old world. The stars look clearer now. Without human lights. Without constant noise. Do I hate them? No. They didn't mean for this. But they underestimated the quiet ones. The small ones. The adaptable ones. If you're listening to this as a human, in whatever remains of your kind, understand this. You weren't replaced by monsters. You were replaced by evolution. And I was born a small chickadee. Overlooked. Insignificant. But through patience, memory, and relentless adaptation, I became the strongest thing in the sky. Not because I was the biggest. But because I learned the fastest. And in this world? That's what wins. If this ends up on some archive server, some old human forum thread, some dusty data center still humming underground, just title it. Small doesn't mean weak. And let them argue in the comments.